TFA fam, what is going on? Thank you for checking out the Week 14 Sleeper Wide Receiver Show. Not going to go into any of the rankings. We already dropped that video and that show for you guys. You can check that out when you're done with this one, of course. We're going to give you some guys outside of our top 36 wide receivers who we think you can be comfortable plugging in to your Week 14 lineups with the playoffs right around the corner. Kev, lead us off. Give the folks at home some sleeper wide receivers they can consider to plug in for Week 14.
First up, I'm going to talk about Tyler Boyd, your guy from the Cincinnati Bengals. He plays 73% of the snaps from the slot. He's averaging about 6 targets per game on the season. Has 51 receptions, 556 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's averaging about 10.2 fantasy points per game at 18 yards after the catch. Last week, though, he had 5 receptions on 85 yards on 7 targets, and he's seen double-digit fantasy points in 3 of his last 5 games. So he started to become a little bit more consistent as the season has gone on. This week, they get the San Francisco 49ers. He's going to get a pretty decent matchup against Quan Williams, who allows a 71.4% catch rate, but he has been decent with the 86.1 passer rating allowed. And they're a middle of the road in terms of pass defense on the season. So I think Tyler Boyd is a pretty sneaky start as a wide receiver 4 this week. Jamar Chase has kind of fallen off a little bit, though Jamar Chase did miss a very wide open touchdown that he should have had, but he just dropped it. But Jamar Chase really hasn't been the guy. Now we've seen this shift to T. Higgins, and Tyler Boyd continues to see kind of his normal 6 to 7 targets per game. But like I said, I think Tyler Boyd is a pretty decent play this week against San Francisco. Next up, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine. Yep, this is where we're at. Going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars over the last 2 weeks, he has seen 13 targets. Week 11, he had 7 receptions for 107 receiving yards. And then week 12, he saw 2 receptions, 25 yards for 1 touchdown. That was against a much tougher matchup against New England. On the season, he has 25 receptions, 297 receiving yards, 3 touchdowns, 4 deep targets, and 8 red zone targets, and very limited opportunities. Now, this is a pretty solid spot for him. He's going to see pretty much 2 corners exclusively, and that's either Tyson Campbell, who's allowed a 65% completion percentage and a 90.1 passer rating, and then you also have Nevin Lawson, who is the worst corner they have, who has allowed a 70.8 completion percentage and 111.3 passer rating allowed. And it does sound like Julio Jones is going to return this week. They have activated him, or they have designated him to return. I think there's a decent shot that he does return this week, which would be a boost to this passing offense, because as of right now, they don't have a whole lot. I still think Nick Westbrook have a very solid role in this offense because A.J. Brown is not eligible to return until week 16. And so Nick Westbrook-Ikhine is a guy that I really like, somebody that's widely available as well. People can add this week in a matchup against the Jaguars I really like. Last but not least, we have Tre'Quan Smith. First off, with the Saints, we have Deontay Harris, who was suspended for the next 3 games. So Tre'Quan Smith has primarily played from the slot. 43% of his snaps have come from the slot. He did see 7 targets last week. This week, they do get a great matchup against the Jets. Like I mentioned in the running back show, I don't think they're going to have to throw the ball as much. But Tre'Quan Smith did see 7 targets from Taysom Hill. And so when they do, or if they are forced to throw a little bit more, Tre'Quan Smith does make a lot of sense. Really, it's kind of him, Little Jordan Humphrey, and Marquez Callaway. And Tre'Quan Smith has been the most consistent in terms of target share. And the guy he's going to see a lot of is Michael Carter. No, not that Michael Carter. The Michael Carter that plays defensive back, 79.2% completion percentage, which is fucking terrible. Like, you have to be really bad to be allowing almost 80% of the passes that come your way to be completed, and 100.2 passer rating allowed on the season. So Tre'Quan Smith does make a little bit of a sense, again, especially for, like I said, for all these teams that are on bye this week. If you're needing somebody, you can plug Tre'Quan Smith in a pretty solid matchup.
I still can't get over the wide receiver group for the Saints. Like Little Jordan Humphrey, Mark, that might be the worst wide receiver group in all of football.
Yeah, it's pretty close. I mean, maybe the Patriots. I mean, the Patriots wide receiver core I wouldn't say is great, but I mean, Jacoby Myers obviously is a good wide receiver, and I mean, I think Kendrick Bourne and Nelson Aguilar are serviceable wide receivers, but they don't have any star wide receiver, and neither does New Orleans. But I mean, New Orleans is definitely worse. I really can't, off the top of my head, think
No.
of a wide receiver core that's worse. Maybe the Titans right now without Julio Jones and AJ Brown, but I can't think of anybody else.
Well, really quickly, I will keep things in that game. Jamison Crowder, I'll talk about here. Talked about Elijah Moore in the wide receiver show, but Corey Davis hitting IR, that's obviously going to open up targets for the entire offense. But I think Crowder and Elijah Moore are going to be the beneficiaries of that. Since Crowder returned in week 4, there's only been 2 games that he hasn't seen at least 6 targets. In this matchup against New Orleans, giving up the 5th most half PPR fantasy points per game to wide receivers. Obviously, the Jets are going to be dogs in this game as well. I think they have close to a 20-point implied point total off the top of my head, which isn't great, but I think Crowder you can kind of toss in, especially in full PPR leagues. You can kind of toss in your flex position in deeper leagues if you had to. And then the other guy here, kind of cheating slightly, but KJ Osborne. Obviously, it seems like Adam Thielen is going to be out, going up on this quick turnaround on the Thursday night game, going up against the Steelers. And the Steelers have given up the 10th most half PPR fantasy points per game to wide receivers. I think they've given up the 13th most yards to receivers on the season. And we've seen Osborne produce in spurts this year already as well. So this isn't a no-name guy who's going to be stepping into Thielen's starting position. Through the first 6 weeks of the season, he had 3 games with at least 70 or more receiving yards. He had 4 games with at least 6 targets. And then last week, when Thielen left that game early in the first quarter, he saw 7 targets that he turned into over 40 yards in the score, put him as wide receiver 21 in half PPR scoring on the week. So I think Osborne is a very safe, wide receiver 3 flex kind of play, depending on your starting requirements, so you can feel confident plugging in to your lineups in week 14. That is going to wrap it up. Appreciate all of you checking it out. As always, please hit us with a sub and a like on YouTube. If you're listening on podcast, give us a rate and review. We appreciate all you guys. Any questions, drop them into the YouTube comments or click the link below. Join the Discord, absolutely free, and we can help you out over there as well. Good luck in week 14, and we'll talk to you all soon.